Good evening, everyone. We're very excited to welcome everybody to the official Cedar Park City Council Candidates Forum hosted by the Cedar Park Chamber of Commerce and presented by Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority with community partners ETS-Lindgren and Garver LLC. My name is Tony Moline. I'm the CEO of the Cedar Park Chamber. We are streaming tonight's forum on Facebook Live, and this will be available on the Chamber's website by the end of the week. Please bear with us on any technical issues that we may have during tonight's events. I want to be sure to mention to everybody that we did invite all of the candidates, and some chose to not participate who were unopposed. We plan on taking questions both from our live audience as well as our online audience. So be sure to, there are cards in the back if you have any questions, and if you're on Facebook, be sure to ask them in the comments. For those who are watching, we want you to engage, but our online moderator will be making sure that comments remain respectful and remain relevant to the City of Cedar Park and City Council Forum. We will block users from further comment if you refuse to work within our guidelines. We have the final say on what we believe to be respectful. I want to thank the candidates for agreeing to join us tonight. Our candidates forum will help our business community, residents, and ultimately voters decide who they want to represent them on City Council. The candidates have been made aware of tonight's format and rules, but I'll highlight them again right now. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to do an introduction. Afterwards, I will ask questions. Each candidate is given 60 seconds to answer the question. You will be given a visual warning at 15 seconds by our timekeeper, and we will cut you off when the stop sign is raised. Everybody should know by now that I have no problem cutting you off. We will place candidates in order of the seat they are running for, and in alphabetical order from there. We will alternate who gives the first answer. Everybody will have a chance to answer all questions. Tonight, we will start off with our introductions. Mr. Boyce, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for this tremendous opportunity to speak to our citizens. Speaking from the heart, I've been blessed and honored to serve the citizens of Cedar Park during an exciting period of growth in our city's history. I have and continue to choose to represent all citizens regardless of who they vote for or even if they vote at all. I want to continue to make sure that they can be confident in the reliability of basic city services like water, police, and fire, and trust in our ability as leaders to work with our excellent city staff to make the investments needed to sustain well into the future those things which contribute to the high quality of life our citizens now enjoy, including parks, trails, access, and entertainment. During my first 2 terms on council, we worked together to navigate critical issues, explore new opportunities, and provide an exciting forward vision for our city, which includes all stakeholders and considerable citizen input. This includes our latest revision for our city strategic plan, mobility master plan, major economic development agreements, thoughtful land use discussions, and thorough evaluation of capital investment projects to expand critical services. Personal agendas and self-dealing have no place in local government. My only agenda is to support our city's strategic plan, which all of us on council had input into, and I would like to help implement it. I wrote an article called Our Cedar Park for the Be Local community publication several years ago. In that article, I talk about adding high-paying jobs, employers, and new opportunities to Cedar Park, which diversifies the tax base and helps to lower property tax rates. I talk about the opportunity to add innovative and reflective development, which promotes, among other things, walkability, social gathering, and entertainment opportunities for our residents. I also talk about how our city is evolving into a true destination spot for activity with Center for Commerce and Innovation, as well as a safe, happy, and supportive place to raise a family. And I want to help make sure that our current and future residents will be able to live, work, and play in a city which warmly embraces all 3. That gives me energy every day, keeps me open-minded to alternative ideas, and that's why I'd like to continue my service to the community.
Thank you. Mr. Enders.
Good evening, my name is Mike Linders. A little about me, I was born in North Texas. What brought me to the Austin area was the school. And when I went to the University of Texas, I joined the Marine Corps. I wanted to make a career out of it, but after going to Iraq in 2005, met my wife when I got back, and I decided I liked her. We were in the Marine Corps, so I got out. Went into finance, worked for credit unions, was a lender for a while. But after a while, I wanted to get involved in public service. And a friend of mine was at the Austin Police Department. So for the last 13 years, I've been there. While I've been there, I've served in a variety of roles. Been in patrol for most of my time there, serving most areas of the city. I've also worked as a detective in the sex crime unit. I was a continuing education supervisor at the academy. Served in a variety of various units like the Lake Patrol unit during the summer, rode a bike on 6th Street for 4 years, so if you're downtown entertainment district, probably saw me down there. But locally, what brought us to Cedar Park was we wanted a safe place to raise a family. So my wife and I enjoy taking our kids to baseball games on the weekends. What we'd like to see is a walkable, safe city, a city where folks can ride their bikes on sidewalks, where kids can go out in front yards and play without worry, and a place where we can call home and make an entire lifetime here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeffs.
Hi, my name is Heather Jeffs. I'd like to thank Tony, Andrea, Maria, or Erica, the entire chamber staff, and its board of directors and ambassadors for hosting this. Thanks also to my husband, Rich, who's been my rock and my best friend for over 25 years now. We moved to Texas from North Carolina 22 years ago to raise our two sons, David and Will. We came to Cedar Park for the community, the parks and trails, and the schools. I spent many years as a veterinary surgical tech, and before getting my associate's degrees at ACC in biology and biotechnology, I worked in the genomic sequencing for a few years before starting my own business teaching and coaching swim. I had to close it during COVID, unfortunately, after almost 10 years. I went back to school during COVID and just graduated this past December from UT with a degree in sustainability studies and economics. I'm so proud of the work that I've done with my colleagues over the past 7 years. I was the driver for and key to passing our first ever comprehensive mobility master plan to holistically address our transit needs, including a Vision Zero style goal for pedestrian safety. We paid down debt every single year during my tenure, saving taxpayers millions in interest and also earning us a AAA bond rating, which has saved additional millions of dollars. I brought in some impressive businesses like James Avery, Firefly, and Plug and Play, bringing high-paying jobs and innovative industries to our community. I remain focused on improving transit and mobility options in the city, looking forward to beginning a network of shared use paths to give safe and convenient alternatives to cars. Our most pressing environmental issue is obviously water this year, and with the looming drought, I know it seems daunting, but our city has done so much work in infrastructure over the last several years, including conservation messaging, public buy-in, and we will make it through this. I've always been passionate about building a sustainable community, and that passion is only amplified with my years on council. Thank you.
Thank you all for those openings. First question, and we'll start with Mr. Boyce. What do you think is the most important job of a city council member?
Well, I think first and foremost is to be an ambassador for the city. I mean, you represent all citizens, of course, so you represent all businesses too. And so I think you have to, really have the city at your heart and have a heart for service. And I think that, whether you're representing the city in conversations with potential, relocation of businesses, or, whether you have, citizens that have, complaints or cares or concerns that need processing, and you act as kind of a conduit to help them get answers to those questions, and you help, try to find opportunities to help grow the city and basically solve solutions.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. What do you think is the most important job of a city council member?
I'd say to listen. All the things that we can do, listening to the folks, what they have to say, what their concerns are, is critical. I think if you don't, then things don't get solved. People have a lot of discontent, and so I'd say listening.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jeffs.
I think the most important thing that we do as a city council is vision setting and goal setting for our community. We are in charge of the long-term planning of our community. It takes a significant amount of time to build a city and to make sure that it's going to last through future generations. And so what we do every year is we have a long-term planning session that goes over the course of a weekend, and then we keep meeting throughout the year to make sure that we're staying on track with those targets. We're checking in with the community, we're holding public meetings, definitely listening, but at the end of the day, we have to set those goals and expectations for what happens in future generations.
Thank you. Our second question, we'll start with Mr. Andrews. Cedar Park has seen a great amount of growth over the last decade, both in residents and businesses. Do you have faith in the comprehensive plan as the guiding document to make decisions on what the future of Cedar Park should look like?
Yes, I believe so. The comprehensive plan covers a wide variety of topics for the city. One thing that I would stress though is the need for a wider variety of housing. Comprehensive plan does address like business, water, transit, things like that. But I want to make sure that folks who come to the city have the ability to stay in the city throughout their entire life cycles. That kids have the ability to move back into town, be closer to family, and that seniors can downsize at some point if they need to without having to leave the city to find something that they can afford.
Ms. Jeffs?
I do. We update our comprehensive plan, where we at least look at it every year to every other year. Our comprehensive plan is a living document. Even though it was first instituted in 2014, we keep looking at it, keep brushing it up, keep making sure that it's still relevant today, and updating it for the market conditions and slumps and peaks in our economy, which we're going to go through at all times. But at the end of the day, it sets just a value system for our community, and I think it is a comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mr. Boyce?
Well, and I'd echo a little bit of what Heather said. I mean, it is something that we look at on a periodic basis, as we should, but it's meant to be kind of a durable document and kind of a guidepost for really everything that falls underneath it, whether it be the strategic plans and then the annual operating plans, capital improvement projects that we have. I mean, it serves as that governor to all of that, and it provides kind of a forward vision of the city. And this week, over the last 10 years, our population's up 24%, and the needs of the community have evolved. And so, it does guide a lot of future development. And so we had a council retreat that was actually the genesis of some additional conversation about potentially amending, not tearing up the plan, but just amending it, recognizing that our population growth and kind of our terminal where we expect to end up. And so we spent a lot of time on that, and it's led to some very fruitful discussions on how to maybe address some of the market demand with regard to housing and some other things.
Very good. Our third question will start with Ms. Jeffs. We have seen a lot of requests at council meetings asking for zoning changes. Several of these requests are to move away from commercial retail business zonings to high or medium density residential. With the limited resources we have, including land and water, and keeping in mind that businesses require less water, emergency services, and other city functions, are you supportive of removing future business land?
I think our zoning is always a challenge, because with less than 15% of our land area left, we do have to look at each parcel individually. And at the end of the day, we also have housing needs. I think there's very specific areas where housing is more important, where it's more relevant, and we do also need to make sure that our economy has enough of a base, that we have businesses and retail and commercial spaces that are going to make sure that we have that diversified economy that's going to keep us sustainable for the next several generations.
Thank you. Mr. Boyce?
Yes, so I mean, we have had quite a few challenges to some of the codes that we have with regard to lot sizes and things like that. When that happens a lot, I think it's reflective of market demand, and these are things that are coming at us that the market is bearing. And so it makes you kind of self-reflect, and it's like, well, do we need to tweak? Do we need to provide some additional, flexibility for builders? But I'd just like to highlight, that we want to protect commercial along our major arterials, but, I just want to highlight that, from our population estimate, we feel like we're going to term out about 135 to 138,000 in population, and that's driven by what's already in the pipeline right now. We have zoned, under review, or development. We've got 9,035 mixed-use units right now, and that's, if you add in those that are within the future land use plan designations, I mean, that's 14,000, almost 15,000 units of residential that are in the pipeline right now.
Thank you. Mr. Anders?
My position is that cities continue to evolve over time, trying to cap them based on expectations about water. I think creates problems with like housing, for example. The median house price now is about $481,000, and if we continue to restrict housing, that problem will only increase. As far as water goes, the Arbuckle Reservoir is coming online this year. That's a reservoir that provides about 90,000 acre-feet of water per year once it's fully operational. That's about close to the amount that the city of Austin uses all by itself. So I wouldn't restrict or either residential or business based on those expectations. If anything, I would allow further wider varieties of housings. If people want to build more accessory dwelling units or duplexes to provide housing at various price points, I think that's important to do. Thank you.
All right, question number 4, we're back with Mr. Boyce. What is the biggest concern you have heard from local businesses, and how would you address it while on council?
Well, I think labor is a key component, and I think, I would probably point the finger primarily at labor, being able to have a consistent and stable staff. There's a lot of job mobility right now. Real wages are moving higher, they're positive for the first time in a while, and so people are empowered to move around. I think, being able to grow in an environment, I think the other thing too that I hear a lot of is access to capital. Interest rates are higher, and capital is a little bit harder to come by. Lenders are a little bit more persnickety, and so being able to fund your business growth at the same time of hiring for that growth, I think, are 2 of the primary challenges that I hear.
Very good, Mr. Enders.
I think that people that work in Cedar Park should be able to live in Cedar Park. So, for example, every time I go to Whataburger, just as a microcosm here, every time I go to Whataburger, it's a different person at the window almost every single week. I rarely see the same person twice. And so it becomes a value proposition of how do you get employees to want to drive from the far outskirts of Leander or Round Rock to come work in Cedar Park if they get a similar paying job closer to home. So I think by addressing some of the housing issues and allowing more people to work in Cedar Park to live here, and reduce employee turnover.
Ms. Jess.
One of the things that I have heard the most, and similar to what Eric has said, is labor issues, but specifically about the education component. I participated in an education opportunity summit just a couple of weeks ago about how we need to make sure that we have more educational opportunities and mentorship opportunities for potential employees, future employees, and job seekers, just to make sure that they have the skills and the tools necessary to be able to enter the workforce as quickly as possible, especially with how quickly our technologies are changing in this area. So I think the more that we can do to provide those educational opportunities for students coming out of high school, students in high school, and people that are changing jobs and moving to our area, to make sure that they have the skills necessary to enter the workforce that's needed here.
Very good. Question 5. One thing that some have discussed and that has been a trend on previous councils is lowering the tax rate. Tell me how you feel this can potentially impact local businesses. Mr. Andrews, we'll start with you.
Well, lower tax rates provide for higher revenues, but me personally, I would match the tax rate with our expenses and the things that we want in the city. I wouldn't borrow to fund ongoing operations. I want to have well-paved roads. I don't want potholes just to save some pennies here and there. So I think that matching the tax rate with what we expect to build and maintain as a city is important.
Ms. Jess.
I think we have a couple of things to balance with that tax rate. We've been lowering it partly because we really do want to take as much pressure as we can off of homeowners, but we also have the added pressure coming down from our state government that says that we have a cap on what we can and must take from property taxes, and that becomes a lot harder for a city budget when we are trying to build infrastructure like water, deep water intakes, wastewater, and filling potholes and maintaining our roads. So it is a challenge to also have the additional pressure from the state government to keep those property taxes lower than maybe a high growth city can really bear.
Okay, Mr. Boyce.
Yes, so we have a $75 million annual general fund budget, and so of that, about 3/4 of that is represented by property tax, which accounts for about 40%, sales tax, which accounts for about 35%. And so obviously, and it's already been said that that trying to balance revenues and expenses is always a challenge to maintain viability of your city government and be able to provide essential services. And one of the things that I've noted just over in the last 2 years, I mean, fiscal 22. Salaries and benefits accounted for 61% of our expense ratio, and now that number is 69%. So I think one of the challenges that we have kind of like internally is to try to make sure that we can still fund all the things that we need to do, but we have equity in our that we can continue to fund our, basically our 6-year, $380 million capital improvement program.
All right, Ms. Jeffs, what do you believe to be the single most important project the city is currently undertaking outside of the Bell District?
Well, that's
Oh my goodness. Honestly, the single most important project that we're doing is our deep water intake, because it is gonna allow us to maintain water service for decades to come. This is a 40-year outlook that is already 10 years in the making. And we're really gonna need this as droughts become more common in this area and more people move to the area. This is a huge project. It's a joint project with both Round Rock and Leander, and on the wastewater side of it, the city of Austin as well. But these are just monumentally important infrastructure projects that we're trying to shepherd through.
Mr. Boyce.
Yes, without question, it's going to be the deep water intake project. And, you know, I mean, just for reference, I mean, we have, in our 6-year capital improvement plan, we have, you know, $118 million allocated to water projects overall, and $90 million of that is going to at least the phase 2 of the BCRUA deep water intake, and we're getting ready to spend this year about $7.5 million. And obviously, it's a joint project. It's serving, you know, multiple masters, because we've already talked about Round Rock and Leander also being a party to this. But you know, we have to execute on that, because, you know, all of these, you know, future population projections and future land use, you know, activities and endeavors are kind of, you know, driven by the availability of resources and vice versa. And so, you know, it's very important that we execute on this. And it is in progress, and it is being executed upon. And, you know, we have videos from 300 feet below to the surface to kind of to justify that. Clearly that deep water intake is the most important.
Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, I was gonna say the deep water intake as well, and I don't have much more to add to that.
I think we are at a point where we can take some audience questions. And so we will start with, who did we start with last week? Yeah, so we'll start with Mr. Boyce.
Okay.
All right. It will continue to go down the line. I'm just trying to remember in my head where we are. So City Council is a collaborative and contemplative position. How have you, or would you, work in the best interest of Cedar Park with other council members?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, I think the word collaborative is front and center with a capital C. I mean, you just have to be, you know, open-minded. You know, obviously you can't have a walking quorum, but I think you have to have, I think, an understanding of what, you know, people's attitudes are on certain things, and you obviously have to channel, you know, what you're hearing from constituents within the community as well. And I think, if I understand the question correctly, it's a pretty provocative question, but it's a good one though. But I think you have to dialogue, and I think you have to be open-minded. And this is, again, like I said in my opening comments, it's not, you know, our agenda is our city strategic plan, and we all work on it. And I think that should be our goal. That should be, you know, the flag that we carry, and working together to achieve that is, in my mind, the #1 goal.
Mr. Andrews.
Yep, I would say listening to various viewpoints. The master plan that we follow is guided by all those viewpoints. And so I think it's important to listen to folks and take their thoughts and concerns into consideration before making decisions.
Ms. Jeffs.
I think everything that we do on the dais is collaborative by nature. I mean, nothing gets passed if it's not at least 4 of us. And most of the time, it's a lot more than 4 of us. And, but I mean, we get up there on Thursday evenings, we talk about the issues, we leave our passions out there, and then we walk off the dais and shake hands and hug and have dinner, and sometimes go get a drink afterwards. But I think it's, I said a drink. It could be wine. But just making sure that we understand that each of the 7 of us is coming at this with the best interest of the city at heart, and with the people that they're around the most. And so we each have a different perspective, and we just have to be respectful of that.
Okay. I promise this wasn't a plan, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. The Cedar Park Chamber is hosting tonight's event. Please describe your experience with the Chamber and the Cedar Park business community.
It's been wonderful. Highly recommend it.
I wasn't, but whoever asked it, kudos.
I think that's Tony's handwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate the hospitality. It's wonderful seeing y'all here and appreciate the engagement in the process.
Ms. Jeffs.
I've really enjoyed the way that the chamber makes events around the city at all times of the day and night for everybody to participate in. It also allows me as a council member to meet a whole lot more businesses than I might normally be able to. And making those relationships and those friendships is really important to making sure that I hear that other perspective that I might not have otherwise. It's been lovely. I love seeing and hearing from all the new businesses.
I think it was about 10 years ago that I got introduced to the chamber, and it was in an after-hours event, Arthur J. Murray Dance Studio off Anderson Mill, and I met Tony and I said, well, so what do you do? And he said, oh, I just take out the trash back then. So that was my first experience with Tony Moline. But the relationships, I mean, it's why I'm here, it's why I run a business in Cedar Park and employ Cedar Park citizens. I mean, you know, the relationships that were cultivated, I think the chamber, this really is a planned question, but honestly, it's a chamber that cultivates those relationships and really fosters occasions for people to get to know each other. And I think the true work of the chamber was laid bare to me when Tony and I and at the time our economic development director during the pandemic doled out, considerable amount of money for pandemic assistance for businesses that had just been, obviously arbitrarily shut down. And the messages were heartfelt, and working together with Tony kind of really opened my eyes to, the power of the chamber in the community and the power of building a strong business community.
This next one is, as you know, traffic is an issue on any given day. How would you suggest we mitigate this problem given all the commercial and residential growth? Ms. Jeffs.
Oh, transit is my thing. I have lots of ideas and I only have a minute, so this is one of the biggest things that we need to do is start moving forward quickly with our shared use plans to make sure that we have bike and pedestrian safe zones, safe paths to school so we can help reduce school traffic and school queuing and idling. There's a lot that we can be doing in terms of looking at some public or public-private partnership transit options, how we can really keep the pressure on CTRMA to open up these frontage roads on the toll to help the people that are going between Austin and Leander to bypass the city without clogging up our traffic so that we can make our city more accessible and more fun to move around for the people that live in our city. I could keep going. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, that's a long question.
Mr. Boyce.
Well, certainly opening up the access lanes on 183A are going to be very important. It obviously takes some pressure off some of the other choke points in the city. But I mean, the city has been very thoughtful in terms of its capital improvement plan. I mean, for transportation projects alone, 6-year plan, we have like almost $90 million allocated. So a lot of these are things that have been mentioned. I mean, we've got, just this year alone, we have $2.5 million allocated to Lakeline Boulevard shared use paths. We have high visibility crosswalks, traffic signal design and construction, and then neighborhood road resurfacing, which we were actively involved in here recently, and bike and pedestrian improvements. And these are all like $90 million of investments that are coming to at least address some of the issues. But again, it's going to take a lot of effort. And as I've said, I'm open to rerunning some of these transit pilot studies just so we get data. I'm a data person, and I think that'll help us inform policy decisions going forward with regard to transit.
Mr. Andrews.
To cut down on traffic, ultimately we have to bring amenities closer to home. For example, we just moved next to the Bell District. So once that place is open and built out, I can walk my kids to a library, we can walk to restaurants, we can walk to shopping, we can walk to entertainment. So as the city continues to evolve, I'd like to see more mixed-use development around the city to give people more of a reason to walk, less of a reason to sit in traffic. Same with transit. Ultimately, transit is a highly efficient way to do things, and if we allow for enough density to go along, let's say, the Bell corridor or up towards Leander. Eventually, the map of it makes more and more sense as the city densifies. So by, for example, the Bell corridor getting built out, at some point it'll make a lot of sense to take, let's say, rail at some point. Don't know when that day will get here, but it's something that we should be welcoming and open to.
Okay. Our next question is another audience question. Given the importance and influence to shape where are we going as a city that a council position has, what experience would you highlight that has given you insight and expertise to help answer where are we going? Let me read it again. It's Mr. Boyce is going to start us off. Given the importance and influence to shape where are we going as a city that a council position has, what experience would you highlight that has given you insight and expertise to help answer where are we going?
Well, I'd say the experience is probably on the financial side, and just digging in through the numbers and understanding capital budgets and capital budgeting cycles and the importance of long-term thinking, and and trying to avoid, from a financial standpoint, the short-sightedness that unfortunately plagues a lot of municipalities. Short-sightedness and what I call like emotional investments that feel good at the time and oftentimes lead to kind of municipal decline. And so it's important to have not just, obviously maintain your annual budgets and maintain your, 3-year strategic plans, but also, to have a long-term vision that where you understand the trends in the population and the investments and the inflation that's going to be attendant with all of that you're going to have to address to plan, not just for tomorrow, but for the next 10 to 20 years.
Mr. Andrews, I'm going to read it again because it is a long question.
Thank you.
Given the importance and influence to shape where are we going as a city that a council position has, what experience would you highlight that has given you insight and expertise to help answer where are we going?
So whenever my wife went to pharmacy school in Houston, one thing that I was constantly aware of was the continual desire or call to expand highways and roadways. And eventually you follow that logic and the city continues to expand, not just in Cedar Park, but out past Leander, towards Liberty Hill, and then ultimately to Bertram. What I would caution against is allowing the city to kind of turn into a Katy freeway where we're just a pass-through for other cities. So I do want to make sure that development gives people a reason to stay local, not just drive through our city, but to stay here or work here. That way, basically, transportation doesn't continue to become a problem like it has in, let's say, the Dallas-Fort Worth area or Houston.
Ms. Jeffs, let me read it one more time. Given the importance and influence to shape where are we going as a city that a council position has, what experience would you highlight that has given you insight and expertise to help answer where are we going?
Well, I think I have quite a bit of experience. I've been on the dais for 6 years now. I've been to multiple continuing education conferences, summits, everything to try to learn as much as I can about our regional partners and our regional challenges. Not to mention, like I mentioned, I just graduated from UT with a sustainability studies degree, and the track that I took was highly focused on building healthy, livable cities. So that is literally what I have my degree in.
Very good.
I've got one final question here. What qualifications do you look for in someone you would appoint to a board or commission outside of their willingness to serve? Mr. Andrews.
I'd say a passion for the topic. I think one gentleman off the top of my head who's extremely passionate about walkability, biking, housing, for example. So folks like that who have a passion who do it not just for either money or just to be on board, but do it because they love the topic. That's something I would look for.
Ms. Jeffs.
I tend to look for expertise in a different segment of the community than is already represented on that board. So I look at what the makeup of the board is and try to figure out where maybe we have some blinders and where we can add some more information and another perspective in our community. So I really try to, broaden these boards as much as possible to be as comprehensive and representative as possible from my one little city that I am to.
Mr. Boyce.
Well, I think having a collaborative nature is job number one, and somebody who is interested in learning about city government, who is interested in participating in city government, somebody who's willing to offer an opinion and not just sit on the dais, right? Somebody that can be actively engaged in the conversation. Because when I was chair of P&Z, oftentimes we had some very contentious issues, and it was important for me to reach out to everybody on the dais, and sometimes I kind of half woke people up to say, well, I haven't heard from you, I'd like your opinion. But it's important for everyone to offer commentary, because I think it's additive to the whole. And I think somebody that just has a passion for serving and a passion for learning is super important to me.
All right. Well, I want to take a moment to thank the audience for their questions. We had some good ones. This is quite literally probably the fastest we've ever gotten through a candidates forum. So now it is time for us to go ahead and do our closing remarks. As we had stated, we'll do them in reverse order from the opening remarks. So Ms. Jess, the floor is yours.
Wow, I did not expect us to be completed already. That's amazing. We're in construction of the Bell District, and our library is nearing completion. Bell Park is next up in design and construction, and will help connect the district to the surrounding neighborhoods. We have several shared use paths lined up. I'm excited to break ground on them. With NFM coming to the city, we'll finally have a full-service hotel and conference center. Lakeline Park Phase 1 is open. If you have not been to our concert series, please, it's fantastic. Phase 2 design is going to be kicking off soon. All this to say that there is so much happening in our city. There's developments happening left and right, and everywhere around the city. Our staff is hopping. I have the insight and the experience to handle all of these projects and more. I'm committed to striking the right balance of being fiscally responsible with all of our money and meeting the needs of all of our residents. I'm committed to being engaged with all of you and to listening to your concerns and responding with honest and open dialogue. I'm committed to looking out for those of us not just here now, but moving here in the future, and our kids that are trying to grow up in this community, and hopefully we can help keep them here. My long-term commitment is to ensure that this is a healthy home for all of our children, and they're proud to live here for years to come, because it's not just about making a community for now, it's about ensuring that Cedar Park is thriving and vibrant for generations to come. I'm here tonight not because I have an opponent, but because I don't want it to be 2 years or 3 years or 4 years before you see my face again. We have people moving into the city every single day, and I think it's just important to make sure that we all know who our representatives are and can put a face to the name and know that you can come and talk to me at any time. My name is Cedar, and I appreciate your trust.
Mr. Henders.
I think the best advertisement for businesses to come and build jobs in our city is to be a great city. And to me, that means empowering people from the bottom up. To me, my vision for a city is a place where kids can grow up in a safe environment, they can go to a great education, and when they go off to college or go off to the workforce, they have the opportunity and desire to come back to the city because they can afford to be here. There's jobs waiting for them when they get here. And someday when they're older, there's a place for them to go. That downsize, they can do that and stay close to family without having to move out. So to me, my vision for the city is it to be a place where folks want to come and spend their entire lives here. Thanks.
Mr. Boyce.
Thank you. Well, why am I running for re-election? First, I love my city. I've been a resident for 18 years. It's been a wonderful place to raise my family, and I feel increasingly invested in my community every day. I own a successful business here in Cedar Park and employ residents of the city. I was an active member of the Chamber of Commerce long before I ever thought of running for elected office. I volunteer for and support local nonprofits, and I'm always trying to pay it forward, whether it be in connecting businesses, charities, good people, or simply connecting with residents that have questions, cares, or concerns. My adult life has been defined by community volunteerism. I've been blessed to have been part of several outstanding organizations, as well as the Cedar Park Planning and Zoning Commission, Economic Development Corporation, and the Chamber Legislative Committee, and now City Council. My volunteer experience in Cedar Park has been one of the most enjoyable, thought-provoking, and intellectually stimulating things I've ever done. And it really has been a joy in my life to serve in elected office for what I believe are absolutely all the right reasons. This is not a means to some other end for me. I'm thrilled, excited, and energized to be right here in Place 4 working alongside my colleagues, doing the very important work with the city for the benefit of those who entrust us with that responsibility. When you go vote, please remember this: governing a city like Cedar Park is not easy. A good many of the decisions we make are difficult and challenging, and not everyone is up to this noble yet essential task. Most council decisions have other second-order impacts or implications that must be considered, and it requires dynamic thinking, open-mindedness, and an understanding of how local government works, and a willingness to promote community well-being through focused, long-term planning without personal agendas. Leadership and experience matter greatly in this election, in addition to a genuine desire to serve and to shoulder the challenges of governing the city. I have that desire, and this election is not as much about who I'm running against as it is who I'm running for. I'm honored to be endorsed by both the Fire and Police Association, and I'd like your support to allow me to continue working for you, the citizens of Cedar Park. My name is Eric Boyce, and I appreciate your vote.
All right. On behalf of the Cedar Park Chamber of Commerce, I want to thank our candidates for participating in tonight's forum to discuss their views on the future of Cedar Park. I'm sure if you have a question that we were not able to answer tonight, the candidates would be happy to answer it for you afterwards or on their campaign websites. I want to thank again our presenting sponsors, Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority, for sponsoring tonight's event. We also have our community partners, ETS-Lindgren and Garver LLC. Thank you for your support. Please visit the Cedar Park Chamber Facebook page and share tonight's live stream candidates forum. Remember, decisions are made by those who show up. Be sure to show up and vote. Early voting starts Monday, April 22nd, and the election is May 4th. As my grandfather used to say, vote early, vote often. And we will talk to you later. Thank you. Have a good night.
Are you from Chicago?